Native people, Native culture, Native knowledge. Hi, I'm Jeannie Green, bringing you award-winning Heartbeat Alaska.
Bringing you national and international Native news, this is award-winning Heartbeat Alaska, the premier Native voice in Native programming.
There's a heartbeat, louder than thunder, revolution is in the air. There's a heartbeat deep inside our mother. Are you too cool?
Now, with Heartbeat Alaska, here's Jeannie Green.
Hello, welcome to Heartbeat Alaska Native News, Native Information, Native Entertainment. I'm Jeannie Green. Thanks once again for joining us. Heartbeat Alaska's Native News weekly program. Last week we promised you we'd visit St. George, Alaska. And today we bring you one of the 5 islands in the Pribilof Islands. It's St. George. St. George is known around the world for its beautiful birds, but also for the people that live there. If you want to meet some really friendly, wonderful people, travel to rural Alaska, and I guarantee you, you're going to make a lot of friends like we did. John Active is here with Native News across the country. Then we're off to St. George, Alaska.
Heartbeat Alaska is brought to you in part by the Division of Alcoholism and Drug Abuse and the Alaska Council on Prevention of Alcohol and Drug Abuse. Together, preventing substance abuse statewide.
And by Ute Air Alaska, official airlines of Heartbeat Alaska. Ute Air Alaska, taking you home.
Thank you, Jeannie. Welcome to Native News across the country. From Nia Bay, Washington, the Mucka tribe, which plans to conduct a whale hunt next month, is preparing to use a massive security force to control anti-whaling protesters during the tribe's annual festival. A task force of law enforcement agencies, including tribal police, the Coast Guard, and State Patrol, could have as many as 200 security and support personnel at Nia Bay on the northwest tip of the Washington coast. From Washington, D.C., global warming is not making some Native Alaskans happy as temperatures continue to rise. The higher temperatures are melting ice in Alaska, and natives who live here are worried that their way of life will disappear. They say hunting and fishing is getting more difficult as the warming continues. The Alaskans spoke at a Greenpeace-sponsored news conference recently. From Rockland, Maryland, Michael Trujillo has been sworn in for a second term as the director of the Indian Health Service. Dr. Trujillo is the first presidential appointed director of the Indian Health Service. His first appointment was in 1994. Trujillo is a member of the Laguna Pueblo. And from Rosebud, South Dakota, the Rosebud Sioux tribe is set to receive a $30,000 grant from the U.S. Department of Justice's Drug Court Grant Program. The money will be used to establish a drug court that provides rehabilitation and counseling to nonviolent offenders. Last year, the drug court program awarded 10 such planning grants and 9 implementation grants to Native American tribes. I'll be right back after these messages. Welcome back. From Washington, D.C., we hear that United States House Speaker Newt Gingrich is planning to visit Alaska later this month. Gingrich plans to visit the Kenai Peninsula, the North Slope, and Chugach National Forest. He is also expected to visit the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge. You might remember that congressional debate has focused on the refuge and whether a ban on oil exploration and development should be lifted. From Lawrence, Kansas, the Haskell Foundation is offering a Haskell throw blanket as a grand prize in a contest for Haskell alumni to send in the names, addresses, and phone numbers of other Haskell alumni. If you're a Haskell alumni, just send in your list of Haskell alumni to Alumni Relations Office, the Haskell Foundation, 155 Indian Avenue, Lawrence, Kansas, 66046, no later than the end of September. The person sending in a list with the largest number of new names will be declared the winner and will receive the blanket. For more information, contact Merlin McClellan at phone number area code 785-749-8417 or fax your list to area code 785-832-8660. And finally, a little word here from myself. It's true. It's getting warmer here in Alaska. Last year in Bethel, it got so hot, all of 70 degrees, I had to hide out in my smokehouse. I can understand now why tourists like to come to visit Alaska in the summertime, so I've decided to become a tourist too. From now on, I plan to head up to Barrow every summer, where I hear it's not too hot. And then if worst comes to worse, I'm planning to move down south to Antarctica to hobnob with the penguins. Thank you for listening to Native News Across the Country. I'm John Active.
Thank you, John. We travel now to St. George Island, a beautiful jewel in the midst of the Bering Sea.
Anakatingaga, Auchida aga, Dingo techrekot, Inkamamago.
St. George is one of 5 Pribilof Islands, only 2 of which are inhabited. In fact, the largest remaining Aleut community in the world resides on both St. George and St. Paul, which lie about 45 miles apart. The Aleuts, on one of the most recent prehistoric migrations from Asia, journeyed across the fabled land bridge between what is now Alaska and Russia at the end of the last ice age. In 1786, Russian fur hunters made the first recording sighting of these remote islands while searching relentlessly for the fabled breeding grounds of the northern fur seal. It was Russian fleet master Gerasim Pribilof who heard the bellow of the fur seals through a heavy fog and discovered the islands that came to bear his name. He named St. George Island after his ship. Aleut ancestors of the present-day residents were brought to the islands to help harvest the seals, and the prevalence of Russian names in the Russian Orthodox Church are reminders of that era. After purchasing Alaska from Russia in 1867, the United States took over administration of the Pribilof Islands, its people, its wildlife. For many years, the Pribilof Aleuts were regarded as wards of the government, but in 1983, the Pribilof people were given full control of their islands.
The federal government phased out of both islands, St. Paul and St. George. In 1972 was the last that we had commercially harvested fur seals. But since that time, unemployment in this community is 80%. It's not looking any better now today. But we're trying so hard to prove to Congress that there is no economy. We will have staffers coming up here this month, the 24th of August. They will be paying a visit, looking at the sites, and with that we hope to convince them and make them see the island as it is. It's a beautiful island, wonderful people, but without an economy and lack of jobs, we're losing many of our families. Some of them are moving out to Ada because there's jobs available there.
Okay. All right, well, thanks for checking. All right, talk to you later.
These days, St. George is actively working to fill the massive economic void left over from commercial seal harvest days. While the government put a stop to the major source of income for the island, they may be stepping in now to remedy the devastating effect on the local economy. Meanwhile, there are the birds. One would think that the remote location would deter visitors, keep them away. The opposite is true, however. Sitting like a jewel surrounded by water, the island attracts a bountiful bird population and tourists. The ruggedly beautiful Pribilof Islands and their extensive wildlife populations offer one of North America's, if not the world's, most impressive naturalist experiences. More than 194 species of birds have been sighted here, and St. George Island is the breeding site of perhaps 90% of the seabirds that frequent the Pribilofs each summer, making this perhaps the largest seabird colony in the Northern Hemisphere. A trip to St. George and the Pribilofs is a wondrous experience, a testimony to the resilience and courage of a hardy people. Their economic future will unfold, but surely, as their ancestors have survived the onslaught of the Russians and the cold winter winds. The people in St. George will make it. Their future is hopeful because they love their homeland.
How can you feel isolated here? A lot of fresh air, enjoy the fog weathers, rainy days, your windy days, you name it, and sunshine days. Yeah, and I just love it.
Welcome to a very special place, the Chugach Heritage Center in Seward, a place where the rich culture of the Chugach people is presented in a unique environment, where legends of the past are brought to life in colorful performances.
I needed the younger people, our future, to make that connection with our past, which are the elders, and save who we are.
Very, very impressive show.
I just loved the show. It was really wonderful.
It's absolutely a must for you to see.
I'm proud that we have a place now where we can show our heritage and teach other people besides just our own culture.
For a truly remarkable experience, visit the Chugach Heritage Center in Seward, where exciting performances and unique exhibits take you beyond the legends.
like to introduce to you Priscilla Coolidge, Laura Satterfield, and Rita Coolidge.
When they are
Thank you for joining us for another Heartbeat Alaska Native News and Native Information. Thank you, Hetty Christensen and Ed Filimanoff. Thank you so much, everyone in St. George, Alaska, for your help in that story. Thank you, St. George Tanakh Corporation, for making it possible. Next week, we travel to Ekwok, Alaska for the first annual Caribou Festival. And thank you, Ekwok, Alaska, for your financial assistance in getting that story on the air. If you have a story from your village, give us a call, 907-563-7440. Heartbeat Alaska's Native News for you. I'm Jeannie Green. God bless you. And we'll see you again, maybe in your village next week.
Nothing else in hands and feet but the love he had for me. Held my Lord to the old rugged cross. He was dying in my place, that by grace I might be free. Only Jesus could bear all the loss.
On the cross, my Savior died. Open up a fountain wide that would cleanse me from all of my sin. He with depths of love unknown left the far